Well, what we're going to discuss here, apparently my microphone wasn't working when we did this, is I'm creating a new project. This project is a warped piece of slab wood that's too thick to fit underneath my CNC carriage. So I can't machine it without thinking about how to do it first. The width of it is, I think, 11 inches. The height is 4.25, or the height is 11.25, and the thickness is 4.25. If you notice, my one key is not working, so I have to go back and hit the height again, because you can see that the height is very short compared to the width, and they should be almost a square. This is the first time I'm going to be using a upper corner, and see, I just noticed it. That should be 11.25, and now it looks more like a square. I'm going to use the X, Y datum position, the upper left corner, and that's going to allow me to machine before I move my carriage down. So if I start up the machine and I machine out an area of 2 inches in the Y travel distance, the distance between my bit and my carriage is greater than 2 inches. So that would be a safe move for me. So I'm going to put a square that's about in the X distance. It should be 11 1/4. In the Y distance, it should be 2 inches. Excuse me. So that's what I'm going to do. If my keys will work the way they should, and apparently the one key is sticking, so it must be time to start shopping for a new wireless keyboard. Probably have sawdust in it. So the height is 2 inches, there it is, but if you notice it's not centered, so it's not over the unit. So now I go to the alignment tools and then center it in relationship to my workpiece. Now I'm simply going to cut a pocket path, and that pocket path is going to be a depth of 1.5 inches, and that'll get it down to 3 inches. The problem is that the carriage is actually taller than this, and you'll see this in the revision part B of this, if you will. Part A, I assume that carriage has only got 3-inch clearance, and it's almost 4 inches of clearance. So I reduced that number down to 1 in the second part. But for this one, we're using it, we're checking our feeds and speeds. Our depth of pass is a little high there, it's 1/4 inch. This is cherry, and cherry is hard. People might tell you it's one of the soft woods, but when you're machining it, it's a hard wood. And it's got a lot of grain swirl in it, so it makes it even harder. I do a 50% cut and a 50% depth. In other words, it's a 1/4 inch bit, so I'll cut 0.125 down and 0.125 over. Excuse me. My feed rate is 100, and my plunge is 30. So we set those up and say okay, and then we tell it to clean that baby out, and we're going to use, it's an offset there, we're going to use a raster, and I'm not sure how I can get the raster to start up there and go all the way down, but I can do it by putting defined path tool paths in there, but that's just too much work. As you can see, that's much quicker. Click, click, and it's done. So I'm going to copy this all the way down. And it turns out that it takes 6 of those to do that. So that's the first one. The easiest way to copy that is to simply copy and paste it. And to copy and paste, I use the Control-C and Control-P, or Control-V, just like you do in a Word document. You can see it's cut it down, it's chunked off all that material and reduced it. And I don't, that's a little too deep, as you'll find later, but as you'll see in the lab, if you watch the lab video, the first pass I went down too far, and it was actually rubbing on my dust collection equipment. So I'm simply going to repeat what I just showed you 3 times. So I'm going to speed that up in a minute. I'm going to do a copy. It's highlighted, so I'll do Control C, Control P. And when I do that, you'll see that light up. You'll see when I paste it that it lights it up. So I can move it out of the way. See it light up? See those bars? Then I slide it down. It's in the position I want. And I'll come over here for my pocket toolpath and duplicate that. Once I duplicate it, I need to rename it. And I'll call it Pocket 2 because we're going to have 6 of these all the way down. So there's Pocket 2. I'll open that. And then I need to highlight the lower one because you can see the upper one's still highlighted. I highlight that, tell it to calculate it, and it does the second one. And preview it. It does one, moves over and does the other. What it's doing is clearing out the wood so the carriage can get into that wood. So that it does that pretty well. Now I'm going to do 4 more of those, but I'm not going to force you to watch it. If you want to see it again, you just back this up and watch it. So I'll speed this up. Once you get to rhythm, it's not too bad. You can see I did the next one. I made it a little too long. I had to adjust it back up. And the board is tapered, so I go down a little farther each time. And I shrank that one, as you can see. Centered it, and there it is. Boom. So I hit all 6, cuts it, does a good job. It would if the wood is as thick as I thought it was. As you'll see in part 2, we changed that. The rest of this, I'm going to speed it up too. This is where I actually take and make sure the material setup is right. You need to do that. And you also need to save your file so that you can put it on your flash drive and take it out in the lab and work. And then part 2 coming up.